I've seen violence. In Iraq, we understood that serving our country came with an inherent risk. We put our lives on the line knowing that we may never come home. But that is not a risk that should extend to our neighbors, our children, and our places of worship. Sometimes it feels like there's no end in sight. Columbine, Aurora, El Paso, Dayton, Odessa, Midland, the list keeps growing. And every day across the country, the daily threat of gun violence in countless communities has become a shocking reality. My life and those of my children are in greater danger here at home than it was in an active combat zone. I mentioned that I'm a gun owner. I have a concealed carry license. I enjoy deer and pheasant hunting. I have voted for both Democrats and Republicans. But I also know that my Second Amendment rights do not preclude me from supporting common sense gun safety measures. That's why I recently joined Colorado Gun Owners for Safety, a group of hunters, sports shooters, concealed carriers, and collectors who support reasonable gun ownership and common sense gun laws. We proudly support the Second Amendment. We also recognize that our country is in the midst of a crisis, and we have to be part of the solution. Like many across the country, we have turned to Congress to take action, yet our words have fallen on deaf ears in the United States Senate. More than 6 months ago, the House of Representatives took the monumental steps of passing universal background checks and legislation to address the Charleston loophole. They did so in a bipartisan fashion, and yet these bills, H.R. 8, H.R. 1112, sit in the Senate without so much of a hearing. And since that day, 15,000 Americans have died from gun violence. Enough is enough. It's time the Senate gets back to work and pass life-saving legislation. This is personal for me. As a veteran, I'm witnessing my fellow servicemen take their lives at a catastrophic rate, with the majority of them being from firearms. 20 veterans commit suicide daily nationwide. That's over 6,000. 6,000 of our veterans are committing suicide. We're losing more a year than we have lost in both of the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq over the last 18 years. More than once, my phone has rang, and on the other end is a veteran asking for help, asking me to hold on to their firearm because they don't know where else to turn. It doesn't have to be this way. However, progress is happening in states all across the country. Colorado, for example, has taken steps like establishing universal background checks, large capacity magazine bans, and extreme risk protection in order to keep guns out of the hands of those in crisis. But life-saving progress does not seem to be happening here in Washington. What we're asking for isn't hard, but it does take courage. As a veteran, a father, and a gun owner, I had to dig deep for the courage many times in my life. I hope the United States senators find the courage as well. So to close, I have one message for the Senate. Do your job. Americans are dying.